Welcome to the first episode of Conversation with Young Leaders, presented by the International Foundation for People's Welfare and Development. We are an NGO passionate about creating impactful social change in a wide array of fields. The IFPWD created Conversation with Young Leaders with an aim of giving a platform to the stories of inspiring leaders in the prime of their youth. Our guest for today's episode is Dr. Mokshada Sharma. She served in various national leadership positions in the Indian section of the International Federation of Medical Student Association. Following this, she was appointed as the Regional Director for Asia Pacific region in the same organization. She spoke at the UN World Health Assembly at Geneva representing medical student community. Currently, she is an MPH student at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. This series is hosted by Dr. Abhishek from News and Media Wing of IFPWD. Sit back and enjoy.
Welcome everyone to the first episode of IFPWD's Conversation with Young Leaders. I'm quite excited about the following conversation. It just is full of promise, full of entertainment, and a little bit of inspiration and even optimism, because this is a wonderful story by a really wonderful person. So welcome Mokshada to our first ever episode of Conversation with Young Leaders. I'm very delighted and honored to be doing this interview with you. So welcome.
Hi everybody. My name is Mokshada. Very nice to be seeing all of you on Zoom. And thank you for such a wonderful introduction. I don't think anyone has ever done such a glamorous introduction to me. But thank you, and I'm really excited to be here and share my story, and hopefully somebody finds inspiration in this and kind of does what they're meant to do for life.
I'm sure people are going to be awed by your story, more, and then a little bit of inspiration. And I hope in the way we present it, they might even believe it is plausible to attempt such a thing. So I hope we can get that going. So you and I have known each other and have been friends for some time now. So I am acquainted with all that you have done. Despite that, when I was compiling material for this conversation, I was still amazed by the range of things you've done. And as the video did show, it is quite dramatic. But let's proceed with this conversation in a rather chronological way so that we can make sense of it sequentially for our audience. So let's start at the very beginning, shall we, Mokshada? So shall we begin?
Sure.
So it's an incredible thing to secure a seat in a medical school in the first place in India. It's really a wonderful thing. So what was your mindset or when you approached medicine? What were you thinking of when you're becoming doctor? Look back to the Mokshada of 2011. What do you remember?
Besides being very cringy, I was not at all focused, I think. When I started off, I didn't intend to be a doctor in the first place. I was very fun-loving. I was just like, I'll do what I can. And it was kind of everybody in my family's wish that I be a doctor. And I was okay with it. So it wasn't against my wishes, but I was also not, oh yes, this is what I want to do. So my parents aren't doctors. So it wasn't like I had to be a doctor. But I kind of decided to go with PCMB, did maths. I don't know why I did maths. I was terrible at it. But somehow I managed to get a seat. And because I got a seat, I couldn't say no anymore. So I got into med school. And I was actually excited to be there because I was going to be the first doctor in the family. And I think everybody was really happy. But to be very honest, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. Even when I got into medical school, it wasn't clear as to what specialty I would do or what I wanted to do with life. I was just like, let's clear medical school first and figure it out. But somewhere between, I think, fourth year and like final year and internship, I was convinced that I wasn't going to practice. And not that I didn't like it or I don't appreciate it. It was just a very calculated decision considering I didn't have my own setup. And the NEET exam was really tough, and it scared me a little bit. And I was like, I'll not get.
You don't have to tell. You're preaching to the choir. I literally ran away from medicine for the same reason. I can understand that part. But yes, so that's very interesting. You know, for such an an incredible story. It has, from the way you put it, it does have such a humble beginning. I'm almost really not willing to believe it. But let's go on. Let's delve into your background a little bit more. So I know a lot of your projects and roles were not in your medical college, but with medical student organizations outside your college. That's where I believe your leadership qualities stood out. So can you tell me about your first time, the situation in which you got in first contact with the International Federation of Medical Student Association and the Indian counterpart to it? How did you get into it? What attracted to you? What attracted you to it? Yeah.
Well, it's a very interesting story because I did it only for the certificate the first time. Um, I feel very embarrassed to say that because just for that one certificate, I ended up spending so many years in that student organization and in multiple student organizations as well. But I remember my first event was an LGBTQI Pride Walk event. And I hadn't gone via a student organization. I went there just because I liked the cause and I was going with my friends and having fun. And I met people there who kind of told me that, oh, by the way, this is like a big point that we work in our organization for. And I was like, cool, if I get a certificate out of doing something I like, this is great. And that was kind of like my first event. And it was fun to be around my friends who were also in the organization at the time. It started off very casually. It wasn't like I had an ulterior motive when I started.
Oh, okay. Okay. Again, with the humble beginnings. Let's build on a bit faster now, shall we? So that people will really understand this. So I remember that I think I joined the organization, a similar organization as well, a bit later. So when I remember you from organizations like the IFMSA and the MSA, I remember that you were very much involved with the student exchange programs. And in fact, you went on to lead the National Professional Exchange Program, as far as I can remember. I do remember, I did compile the material, but you did lead that. And then you went on to be vice president. But I remember our conversations earlier that you're very, very passionate about student exchanges. So what was it about the nature of student exchange? So for the audience who are not aware of the student exchange programs, I think it's a small minority, but let me just preface this. So student exchange programs are where you as a medical student can go to another country and work or observe their healthcare system in various forms, research or in a working capacity. So I remember, Mokshada, that you are very passionate about it. So could you tell me what drew you to professional exchanges of all the divisions in the organization?
Well, when I was in my third year, my university had a tie-up with the German embassy, and I went on a first cultural exchange to a German city. It was Bremen, and it was not a medical exchange, so I wasn't working in a hospital.
Okay.
But it was within high school students, so it was not at all educationally aimed, I would say. But I had such a great time there, and we attended a lot of microbiology and genetics courses there, and I came back completely changed, and I was like, it was the first time I was going abroad alone, living with a different family. I was obsessed with eating dinner in daylight, which was something extremely new for me. But I think when I came back, I kind of knew that this is something everybody should experience, and I started working on it within my university first. And I was really lucky that our organization then was also trying to get it started nationally. So I was just like, oh, I've been on an exchange. I really want to do this. And that's how I kind of started working on it. And it just went off from there.
Oh, okay. And I think you do attest after experiencing it that the transformative experience of working in another country, of even observing another culture, I think perhaps it also involves to your love of traveling, which I do deeply share. I mean, on your Facebook profile, there is this a very striking turn on a very famous philosophical statement by Descartes: "I travel, thus I am." So instead of "I think, thus I am." It's very safe to assume that traveling is important to you and is a very important concept of it. So what is it about the experience of traveling that you feel everyone should experience, the nature of adventure and exploration and the transformative nature of it? To go on.
To be very honest, I didn't start traveling because I liked traveling.
Okay.
I started traveling because of my exchanges, and I sort of realized that it gave me the opportunity to kind of do a lot of things besides just work there. So almost all of the countries that I visited, I've kind of had a purpose. Like I've either had a conference or an exchange there, or a meeting, and then ended up going and traveling. But I truly believe that exchanges were life changing for me, especially since I had 3 of them. Like I said, the first one was a cultural exchange, but then I had 2 more that were in Germany and Poland. And in very small cities, it wasn't like I was going to a touristic place. I wanted to see how medicine was practiced there. And I kind of also got a flavor of all of these specialties that I wanted to test out. I feel like traveling sort of changed me in many ways. I think people who knew me back when I was in medical school won't even recognize the person I am right now. But I would highly suggest that everybody go travel, even if it's not just for work. It kind of changes you in a different way. It opens your mind up to new things, and it'll also motivate you to kind of be extraordinary in a way in your own life. Yeah.
Yeah, let's move on to a slightly light but related segment. I mean, most people are definitely locked in right now, and I believe they would love to at least vicariously travel through others' experiences, so that there is at least a travel by proxy. So can you recollect something of your travel stories? I do remember my travel stories, and we did meet on one of my travel stories as well, once in London. So, but I remember them to be really extremely entertaining, to put it mildly, and transformative at its best. So could you recollect some of your travel stories, a lighter segment of the conversation?
Um, I think one of my most memorable stories is from Montenegro, and I almost died there. And I know I'm laughing right now, but I wasn't laughing then. I was going to die. And my driving back then was not great, and I kind of rented this really tiny car with no snow wheels, and there was intense snow at that point of time. And I was trying to save money like an idiot. So I ended up traveling on carts, basically roads across mountains on it, and my car skid. And I almost fell in the valley with four of my colleagues. So it was not fun. And yeah, I think it kind of changed me in the way that I stopped taking as many risks as I used to, because I'm the kind of person who legit will go and stay with a stranger just for free accommodation. I do not recommend it. But yeah,
Yes.
I think there are a lot of stories. I would love to tell you guys some other time, I guess.
I mean, that's quite, I don't know, that heavily, because I mean, for me, because I wouldn't drive a car on a flat road in my own town. So, and so you grew up in Mumbai, didn't you? So, and so you learned driving in Mumbai, and you started driving in the snow in Montenegro with no, with no snow tires on. Okay, fine. All right. All right. So I can see why you agreed to the first ever interview. You do have a penchant for taking risks. Yeah.
Truly, I feel in a way very special that somebody is even interviewing me. It's a strange experience.
Oh, no, no, no. People will be, now I think we're going to get into really incredible territory now. So they'll understand why we are interviewing you. So I think from traveling, I think the natural segue is to start talking about your roles outside of India. So following your leadership roles in the exchange program in India and being by the vice president in the same organization, you went on to become the regional director for the Asia Pacific region under the IFMSA, and then went on to become an important part of the IFMSA's international team of officials. Can you recall your experiences to working with students and doctors who shared a similar active philosophical role in the healthcare system? And not just that, how was it to work in a multicultural system, people of all diverse backgrounds? What did you take from there? Could you tell me more about it?
I would like to preface it by saying that the workings in an international organization are very different from what it is on a local level. And I feel like you learn a lot of skills locally that you probably cannot learn internationally, because when you're internationally, you kind of like stuck into reporting and accounting and all of that. Needless to say, of course, you have a lot of opportunities that you kind of cannot get at a local level. But I feel like my experience in the region was amazing. I feel like I knew that I wanted to be the regional director. It was something that I actually truly went after. It wasn't something that happened by fluke. I worked towards it very systematically to kind of get where I wanted to be. But also, I did not want to stay. Like once I had that experience, I didn't want to continue, and I decided to kind of leave the organization because I had achieved what I wanted to achieve. I would say that in Asia Pacific, especially.
I'll get to a similar slip up later on. Don't worry.
No, I just drank so much coffee that now I'm having tremors. But yeah, so within the region, I think it was really interesting because the position kind of allowed me to have a lot of like external representation, meeting people within the region who are doing things in different countries with the same kind of outlook. And I also got to work with a lot. My team was of 10 people from different countries within the region itself, and they were excellent. They were the best at their field, and I kind of also learned a lot from them, even though they were in my team and kind of helping me perform all of the tasks of the region. But I will say that it's important to kind of have that connection with nearby countries, especially South Asia, because we face the same problems, and the students are also kind of in the same mindset as we are in India. And if we work together, it's very easy to kind of get change on a very regional level rather than trying to do something nationally, which is very difficult to attain in some place like India or Bangladesh or Pakistan.
Okay. And I think that also gives you a bit of training for possible career in diplomacy later on as well,
Yes,
because you're able to
exactly.
see, we might get into that later on in the conversation. But I remember that, you, while working with different countries, I remember that you were even you were instrumental in bringing a few countries which did not have their own medical student boards affiliated with them into this. Could you tell us more about it? That sounds really impressive. I just wanted to know more. Yeah.
I've had a very strong affinity for the Central Asian countries all my life. I've had a lot of support from there, and also a lot of friends of mine live in Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Afghanistan. So basically, during my term, one of the duties that I had was to kind of expand the organization to these countries and bring in their medical student organizations. During my term, I was speaking to like 4 countries. I even tried North Korea. Did not happen, by the way. But spoiler. However, it was very easy for me to work with Tajikistan and Malaysia, especially. We got them in during my term, which was really, really cool. I don't think I had to do much with Malaysia because it was already a formed organization. But with Tajikistan, my experience with the Indian organization, I started off when it had just started. So I had the experience to kind of tell them and guide them through the way as to how they need to set it up in their country. And it was great. Those guys were very motivated. So most of the work was done by them on the ground, and I was just there to kind of make it happen, in the end.
Okay, so that's incredible. I mean, yeah. And yeah, and as you said, alluded to before, that the problems that they face are very similar to the problems we face. You build up your spirit of humanity and egalitarianship when you are working with these people. So I think a side effect is that you become a lot more compassionate and kind towards most people you meet. So I think that, but if there is no other advertisement for collaborating with other people, this should be it. You just become a better person. Definitely, as you said. So, and okay, now if you remember and you saw the introduction, so I don't think you're going to forget that because of the music that we put up there. But if you remember that, we did feature a video of you delivering a really poignant and rousing speech at the UN Pre-World Health Assembly at Geneva. And Mark, come on, that's the UN. I'll repeat it for the audience: UN World Health Assembly in Geneva. I mean, I still won't get over that anytime. So surely that must have been an incredible moment. So do tell me, how is it that you got to be there representing the IFMSA and speaking there? What was the experience like?
These events kind of look like they were singular events, but like I think I was a lot of things happened before that kind of led up to it. When I was the regional director for Asia Pacific, one of my duties was to represent India in the Southeast Asia regional office of the WHO and the Western Pacific regional office of WHO. And so I'd already attended a few regional office meetings of the WHO before. And when this opportunity came, they actually allow 70 people around the world to apply. It was just like a simple application procedure, and because I had previous experience, I kind of got selected for it. I do think that experience was life-changing in a way because the way things work in the regional offices is also very different from what happens in the UN office or the WHO office at Geneva. Since over there, it's just, high-level decisions between countries and referendums being passed. So I feel like over there, I felt very minute. Like I felt like I wasn't able to create change in a way. But like in the regional office, because everybody was like from the region, I could kind of like have more of an opinion because it was related to what I was doing, and I had a little bit of experience. But of course, it was pretty cool to be there, And I was lucky to be able to make a statement as well that you spoke about. But I have to say that there were many people who kind of helped us write those statements, and we also got training for writing statements and making sure that we could present them correctly. So it was pretty good. It was not just this was a cool thing to do. I actually did learn a lot there as well.
I would like to focus on one aspect of the speech there, if you would like to engage in it. That is the youth participation. I think that if anything, that's one message that that I would like people from the audience to take from this interview is the youth participation and the role that the youth of today can actually play in the systems and the healthcare systems and the political systems. And as you said, the young people under 30 make up half the world's population. So what was it that you felt that you feel are barriers to the youth working in the current state, and what do you think the youth should do from your own experiences that can actually enable them to have a better environment for themselves, basically, if not anything else?
I feel like since the time, at least I started working in youth representation and stuff, things have kind of gotten way better and way easier.
Oh.
I feel like now these big organizations are already taking the onus to make sure that students are being involved in sort of every kind of decision making on a higher level. Now, what we need to ensure as youth is to make sure and keep our countries and our local governments responsible to kind of adopt that kind of system as well. Because if it's happening at such a high level, it should be easy to have that trickle down effect and have all of these local governments also involve us in this. I feel like it's a little bit difficult also in India because there's a lot of bureaucracy in general. I'm speaking only for India, of course, but there are many countries that are kind of on that way. And I include India in that as well. It's gotten a lot better over the years where they are making sure that they include the youth in decisions and stuff like that. But I will say, don't give up, keep working, and don't have an ulterior motive to kind of work when you're working in these organizations. It's okay to have a little bit, but sometimes, for the greater good, you just have to kind of get after it and just go for it, irrespective of the response you're getting. It's not, it's very easy to get sidetracked. Try not to get sidetracked. And as long as we're all united, they cannot mess with us. They will have to sit up and listen to us and kind of do what we ask them to do.
That's that's a rousing speech again. Thank you for that. And I would like to, that's almost inspiring. It almost makes me want to go back to medicine. Thankfully, I will still stick with my violin. So yeah, but more than that, I would following that, what I think I know the least about your work is the World Federation of Medical Education. I didn't know you were involved with the European body, the AMEE, the European education body, particularly well. So from exchanges to medical education, what do you think is it from completely being in exchanges and now being in medical education? What do you think are the barriers that medical education currently face? And from your experiences in organizing these events, how do you think we should proceed further?
I'm going to kind of.
I did roll in too many questions. So begin with your experience in the WFME. You did an internship there. We'll slowly take it. I think we still have a good deal of time, and I'm sorry for rolling in too many questions.
Don't worry.
Go on.
So when I was working in the organization, I was slightly working in medical education, but not really. In exchanges, we have something known as academic quality to kind of see if the student is actually learning something on an exchange. And we did a lot of learning outcomes and curriculum development and stuff that was happening in the exchanges. It didn't happen during my term because we were right in the initial stages, but I'm sure that it followed up after me. And the truth is, I didn't work in medical education the whole time I was in student organizations. It was by fluke that I ended up being the intern for the World Federation for Medical Education. And they also knew that I had no experience in medical education. They saw that I worked in academic quality in exchanges, which is why they kind of picked me. But once I got into medical education, it was just like, whoosh, so much information. And I was like, maybe I could just get a career out of this. And it was very inspiring to see how students can actually change development, like curriculum development and learning methods. And since even during COVID, all of our medical education is now online, there is a lot of scope to kind of see how medical education develops over the years. And a lot of us, once we get into our specialty, will end up becoming teachers or in teaching hospitals or whatever. So I feel like medical education kind of became important to me a little bit later in life. Yeah, I wish I had gotten into it before.
Let's. Okay, you finished MBBS in 2017. A little later in life does not cut it yet, but that's a very important point you hit on. While we are involved in the educational system, as we are all students one time or the other, we rarely get to discuss the philosophy behind the education and how is it being applied and is there a better system to go about it. We rarely involve ourselves in that. I mean, I remember from my college that there was no student representation in literally any college body, but only when I was joining these organizations and I listened to really incredible people like you and a few other people speak in these organizations and see how it is, then I realized, okay, even I think it's among the bylaws of the organization to increase student representation in educational bodies as well. So that was the first time I had an insight that maybe I should take a more active role in my education and not just a passive one. And that's quite interesting as well. Maybe we should do a little bit more of that all in all our colleges, and let's see how it goes. So yeah, so let's see. So we went to Poland and Germany during our exchanges, and then to Geneva, and then we went to Central Asia. Finally, we now land in London. I've traveled vicariously halfway around the world through your experiences, and now to London. So where, a big shock, it turns out you are interested in public health. Who could have guessed from your previous records? But now you land in the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Incredible institution with over a century's worth of history. And it's in London, and it's an incredible multicultural city by itself. Do tell me about when you got the idea to do MPH and when you got the idea to do it in London, of all places.
Like I said before, I didn't want to do specialty, give the NEET. By the way, I never gave NEET. I was very focused from the very beginning that I was going to do something either in administration or hospital management or something closer to the leadership kind of aspect of healthcare. Public health kind of came into my life when I was in internship, and everybody was kind of irritating me. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I just had to settle on something. So I was just like, okay, fine, I'll do something. And I decided to do public health. I was very clear I did not want to give GMAT. I have a thing against, competitive exams, NEET, GMAT, GRE. I was like, no. Okay. For applying to LSHTM, there was no exam that I needed to give. It was a big plus in my head. And also it was the best in Europe and third best in the world. I was like, okay, yes, cannot get better than this. I applied just in case I would get in. It was a very last minute application, to be very honest. I was still an intern doing a lot of this IFMSA stuff. I think in retrospect, I could have made my application better. But I finally did get admission into LSHTM. It was very last minute. And I ended up there just because I got in again. But I will say that public health was something that I always wanted to do. When I was studying, I'm still studying at LSHTM,
yes.
Now online. But I feel like that experience is unparalleled. I would strongly suggest that a lot of you, if you want to do public health, try to get education abroad. It's good to have like the idea of how education is done in India and also somewhere else. I struggled a little bit in the start with the learning. It was a very different kind of system where they expect you to do a lot of stuff, extra reading, but it's not rote learning. But I think in the end, the people I met, exceptional at their field. Like I think the best part about the whole LSHTM experience was the network. Okay. It was really fun. I still feel terrible that I had to come back due to COVID, but yeah. By the way, hi LSHTM people if you're here.
I'm sure they'll see it at least on Facebook, or if they are live, hello to you again. So, yeah, and yes, with the the LSHTM is quite a place to be in, and as you said, about the foreign experiences and having an education. I think you're absolutely right, because it was in a similar experience that I realized, okay, not only are they approaching this entire subject differently, the philosophy behind what role it plays in their own lives is quite different as well. So I ended up learning from my experiences a little bit with education from outside, is that okay, I can approach this completely differently, and there is this very unique thing about a holistic approach that they have. You have to figure out how this plays into your life, and from your story so far, I can see that there is a certain difference approaching life as a career and certain difference approaching life as a collection of phenomenon that you're really satisfied with. And certainly, I think I think we too much focus on doing and getting into a career rather than okay, I'm going to be in the present, see what's there, if I'm in the right moment, then do. All the best made plans have late applications sent in. Trust me, I do know my application in 3 days after the deadline to Manchester, so I do know it. But yeah, so there is at the very least, I think from your example, people should take away is that that even if you are not focused on a career, and if you're focused on being in the present and being and what is satisfactory at that time, it's actually okay to do that. I mean, would you like to speak a little bit more in that regard?
I think you summarized it pretty well. I
Okay.
haven't actually looked way into the future ever. I sort of just went with it. I was doing things that I liked. A lot of people actually told me that there is no career in public health. Kind of true. Now I'm not finding jobs, but I'm not serious. You do get jobs in public health, but
Yes. I
I
mean, we are in the midst of a public health emergency. I mean, if you ever need really intellectuals in public health, right
yeah,
time
we're kind of
to
at that
pick up.
space and time where in the healthcare industry, there is going to be a demand for anything you want to do. So even if you decide to do something really absurd that none of your friends are doing and none of your colleagues are doing, it's sometimes worth a shot because maybe you'll be the only expert in it and be employed irrespective of what you've done. So I feel like there's no need to kind of follow on somebody else's footsteps. Kind of do your own thing, enjoy the ride. It's sometimes just great. I didn't intend in any way to kind of do the things I do, and sometimes I feel like, how did I end up doing all of this? I was like the most unfocused kid ever, and I feel like it's just keep busy, be happy. That's the solution to everything in life.
Absolutely, and so I mean, even if your career is working out, or even if there are prospects, there's extreme undue duress that you mostly put on yourself, because the entire world really not born with a career on you. You put it on later on. So at the very least, it allows you to relate to the world differently, and it allows you to relate to your own level of satisfaction differently. And finally, you just end up having a more wholesome, I think so, and that's a very important aspect of this. And so now we have talked immensely about so much of your journeys, and definitely we've overlooked a lot because you have truly done, and not one interview possibly won't cover all the nuances. But I would like to say that let's focus on one other aspect of your journey. It'll be evident to anyone who applies themselves to something that they're passionate about that they will eventually run into some problems and hurdles and barriers in their journey. So it is on your way to all that you have said, you told right now that you must have gone through some severe or incredible hurdles. Could you tell me some of the obstacles, or a few of the obstacles that you had to encounter, the difficult decisions you had to make? I'm
Ooh,
putting
where
you
do
on
I
the
start?
spot.
When I often think back, and I'm somebody who loves to create memories and revisit them. I write a personal diary and everything. I'm a bit intense that way. But when I usually think about the hurdles that I had right now, they obviously seem very insignificant because you kind of went through it, and now it's just like just another thing that happened. But I feel like one of my biggest hurdles personally was my procrastination. It's something that I still deal with. It's tough. Like when I get to work, I really work, but like there will be 20 days of me not doing anything after that. And it's been a struggle to keep myself on track, especially when I don't have deadlines. Like in school, it's fine because now we have deadlines, so everything will be okay. But in like an NGO, if you're working there, you don't have deadlines. They're all personal deadlines. In those cases, I tend to slack. Another hurdle I would say is I think everybody faces stuff when you're kind of a little bit motivated to do what you want. Anybody who kind of opposes you, gives you criticism, you don't want to listen to it. And I think that's also another big fault in me. Like, if someone criticizes me, I cannot stand it, even though I may be wrong. And like 10 minutes later, I'll realize I'm wrong, but it's still a thing. I feel like hurdles are just natural. I think you just have to keep going at it. A lot of times I have come where there have been interruptions in my work where I went for something, didn't get it. And then I was just like, oh my God, I put all of my life in this and now I have nothing to do. I think you know a few, but it's just, it happens to everybody. You just have to kind of find your way, find your motivation again and go for it. Because if you give up, then the hurdle won and you shouldn't let the hurdle win.
Absolutely, and especially when you are when you are working in places like an international organizations, and I've had the very experience myself. You would try to go for a post, but at time you wouldn't make it. It shouldn't be the end of your activism or your work. I mean,
Yes.
that shouldn't demotivate completely. There are still other years and other times and other bodies even. So if you want to, you can do it. But
Yes,
as
I truly agree. And I feel like if you feel under, even if you're applying for something, like you said, if you apply for something and you don't get it, it shouldn't make you upset that, oh my God, I don't like this organization anymore, or I don't like this field of work anymore. It shouldn't be that way. There are a zillion organizations who would die to have a motivated worker. So just find a place that you're happy in, and colleagues that make sure that you're having mental peace and you can do the best that you can, and you will be fine. Yeah.
You mentioned colleagues. What are the means of coping you use in there? Did you have a lot of good friends through it, or
Oh,
did you have any routines through this? How do you with them? I mean, eventually disappointments are a part of life. So how do you do that?
um, I have been very fortunate. I've ended up making such good friends, a lot of enemies as well, but a lot of friends as well, and friends that stuck with me through everything. The kind of friends that are happy that you achieved and not affected that they didn't achieve. Like, I mean, I don't know, the kind of people who are just happy to see where you reach your goals. I feel like I've been really blessed, especially in these student organizations where people were just working because they cared for that. They cared for the goddamn standing committee or the the field that you were working in, and they didn't care about position or anything. So I'm very fortunate that way, that I made a lot of friends. Of course, you have colleagues that you don't always get along with, but you have to kind of keep in mind that they also have the same passion, and which is why they're in that field. You don't have to get along with everybody, but it's better to have like good work spirit in the team, irrespective of how you are friends or not friends with them.
Not
I
always
will
the
say
same.
though,
Yeah.
what,
Yeah,
what?
go on. Sorry, go on. I
No,
was trying
no,
to stir
say
up
it now.
controversy. I was trying to stir up controversy. Not all the colleagues have good intentions, but go on.
Yes. Oh, okay. No, of
Yeah.
course. There will
Yeah.
always be people who are going for the same things you're going
Hmm.
for. It's
Hmm.
going to be natural that you're going to have competition. I truly feel like sometimes, you let competition get to your head and you're like, oh my God, this person is my like life enemy or whatever. But I like, once everything tides over, you will feel like you were the fool to kind of have invested so much in that. I will say that it's good to keep your friends very close, and one of the best experiences of this whole journey I've had is the friends that I've made at every step, either in India or abroad. Like, some of my best friends are not even in my city; they are in Belgaum and like different cities, and also in different countries. So you never know where you find your passion. And I would say that yeah, just have fun. Just have fun. Try not to be discouraged by anything else that happens around. You will be okay
Hmm.
in your journey. You'll
As you
be
did
fine.
say, one more point was that you had to work towards being the regional director and so on. So I think another thing people should take for is that you really ask for it if you want it, rather than just wish. So yeah, so I think that's
Oh,
as
yeah.
well. So that's something I found really incredible. That because if you are coming from a medical in India, nobody tells you to ask for something. You just, or from even from any family in India or any scholar. So I learned that by observing you and observing a few more others, that you really had to go for it if you want. So
Yeah.
if you're just being in one place,
A lot of
yeah, go
times I
on, you go
got
on.
things that I didn't actually want, and I was happy to have it. But this was the one thing that I truly asked for. And I kind of announced it. I was like, okay, next year I am doing this. This is what I want to do. And I didn't care what my friends said, what my colleagues said. I didn't care what my parents said, because of my running for this position, I had to push my internship and I graduated 1 year later. I feel like my parents also had very strong opinions on this, and they were just like, why do you have to do all of this? Just give your NEET and get over with it. But I feel like if you really want it, just put it out in the universe. It's going to happen, and just work towards it. It's not just important for you to say you want it. You need to make sure you're worthy of it. And I was very lucky I got to do it. Even if I didn't get to do it, I would have continued to work. But it's just one of those things that worked for me.
I'm glad it did, because we are having this interview right now. And just
you should have this conversation with me, even if I didn't become.
I most likely, because most likely I would have. But I do have one more question in the spirit of hurdles to take for, and this perhaps is a bit more personal and perhaps more something that you do work for. So I'm also sensitive to the fact all over the world, and more so in India, the experience of being a woman navigating through the kind of power structures that you have does prop up some further and sometimes seemingly unsurmountable challenges as well. So what to face in this regard, and where did you draw your strength from to overcome these extra barriers that are being placed in because of the person? Because I ask this because more and more members of our organization are ambitious women who would like to go for their own journeys and have their own stories to tell. So what tell them about the hurdles you overcame so that they would be inspired as well?
I feel like what you mentioned about me being a woman, I don't think in my student organization life, I felt something extremely against me because I was a woman. In fact, a lot of my colleagues were women, and they were very high achieving women, and we were truly supported by the system, and we went on to achieve what we wanted to do. I feel like that for one did not have any impact. Maybe it did. I think it does in other aspects, but I think when you're a doctor and you're in a medical student organization, it's very stupid if that happens. It happens in some countries, but it doesn't happen in India anymore.
Okay.
I would say as a woman, I didn't feel like there was any backlash, but I will say that as an ambitious person in general, you always end up having a few things you need to kind of tackle. Tackle would be a good word. I feel like it's natural, but even if you don't end up getting what you want, it's important to continue to strive for it. And I keep saying this, and I know I sound like a broken record right now, but there have been countless times I didn't get what I wanted. I was very upset. I think even crying is like a big thing. If a woman cries, it's a sign of weakness. I've kind of faced that in the student organization. If I ever cried when I was really exasperated with something, I feel like usually it shouldn't be a problem for anybody to achieve what they want to achieve in any organization. And if it's a systemic problem, then you face it, and then you kind of try to change the system. But I didn't personally have to deal with that.
I'm glad, because so that speaks to the very progressive nature of these student organizations, perhaps, where even though your society might harbor these prejudices against you, your gender, or because of your orientation, or because of whatever you are, that, these organizations are in mild way safe spaces where you are allowed to express anything that you want to in a certain way, go for anything you want to. So that's quite nice, actually.
Sometimes
to know. So I think
I've encountered individuals who were a little bit crazy in that way, but I haven't as systemically kind of seen the system target women in any way. I feel like some people are just there who kind of come with their traditional 20th century notions, but I mean, you can always avoid them, and
Oh well, I hope that I hope people are in our audience and from our group who will listen later on do get inspired and do get a certain sense of optimism. I do think that's one of the reasons why you were one of the best persons to start off the interview with, because
I think I was so informal in this.
No, I mean, that's good. I mean, we are not conducting an analysis. You're not here to defend your
If you
thesis,
guys
you're
are
definitely.
unsatisfied, please still come for episode 2 with the next young leader. Please don't
No,
go for
no,
others.
no, no. I absolutely think people will be astonished by what you've done, and then further awed by the kind of down-to-earth nature that you are easily project. That's very much part of your personality. So that I think infuses. That's the incredible part. I mean, I've met people who do incredible stuff, and they need a sense of aloofness around them. So you do feel that they are kind of untouchable. That the amount of work that they is incredible to even contemplate. And but I feel with your approach, your accomplishments, and with the kind of even anybody can do this approach, which I am not sometimes doubt, but I do know from your story that it's possible. I think you are the best source of optimism, especially in lockdown period where people are unable to move. So I think your story does give. So I heart opening. I think more people will be definitely, yeah, sure, involved in further journeys like yourself. So, I think we have come to a later final segment conversation, but this one is a more lighter one. I think we have discussed on careers and phenomenons and yeah, and so this is one for a segment that we borrow from late shows called "What's this photo on your social media profile doing?" and can you tell me the
Okay.
story behind it? So there's a slideshow of 4 photos that I have randomly picked from your profile. So
Okay.
you perhaps and it really looks incredible. So I think we are very much interested in the story behind them. So yes, I think I just need to send a message, and there should be a immediate
Sounds
slideshow
good.
going on. So yes, just yeah, yes.
Oh, okay.
First, oh yes. So what's happening here? Oh, this is the
Um,
WFMA. Go on, yeah.
yes. So, yeah, this was at the UN itself, at the
Oh.
72nd World Health Assembly. And I was already a representative of the youth IFMSA delegation. But I was also at that time the intern for the World Federation for Medical Education. And I had kind of written the statement that they were going to make at the conference, which is why they also made me part of the World Federation for Medical Education's delegation. And that's my boss, Erin, and she's amazing. And she's basically the director of operations for the organization. And she was kind of like my mentor at the organization and kind of like controlled the internship itself. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's nice. And I think go to the next photo. That's there. I think the next slide. Sure.
Oh, I love these
Yeah.
guys. This I can go on and on, but I'm gonna keep it short. These are my 10-member team. I'm the one with the mic, and yeah, you guys can see it.
Yes.
But I basically this is my 10-member team when I was the regional director for Asia Pacific, and they were my assistants, and they kind of helped me navigate through the daily workings of the region. And I think we had like 9 countries represented. I think it was very cool to have people from different countries, and they were experts in their field. And I don't think my team would have ever been a success without these guys. Of course, they're very close friends now, but yeah, shout out to them. They were amazing. Yeah, they're all doing really cool things right now with life. So they've all graduated,
Uh,
and yeah, it's pretty cool.
how about this one?
This one was the same, the World Health Assembly at the UN, Geneva. It was the youth delegation from IFMSA, IVSA. So there were veterinary students, pharmaceutical students, dental and medical students. And it was really cool because we were, I think, 72 people, and we got to speak to our health ministers and people at the WHO. I think a lot of them are now employed at the WHO, or at least are consultants with the WHO.
Oh,
Very, very
you are
inspiring. They were
you are
all.
seventh from the right in the second row. I think. Yeah, that's that. That's you. That's you. There, the second. Yeah.
You
How
didn't
was
have
it?
to point out. But yes, that's me.
How was it? Yeah. How was the? I mean, yeah.
I
It
could have just
seems
been one in
in.
the crowd. But
No, no, no. You're
I think
standing
a
out.
lot of us are still very close. And you know, the one good thing about working internationally is that a lot of the projects and the grants for researchers are now international grants. And I remember like a few of us applied for a hackathon last year together, even though we were from different countries. So I think it's a good place to network, and these people are going, it's a cool way to kind of meet people who are interested in the same things as you.
And I think we've come to the final photo. The next one, please.
Oh yes. Oh, this is great. So I had gone for I'd been to Uzbekistan after I finished my term as RD, and they invited me there for this event that we were having. It was a Central Asia training, so we had students coming from Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan who were going to be trained, and I was a trainer there. And very last minute, we got an invitation to the WHO European Center for Primary Healthcare conference, which was in Almaty, Kazakhstan, and I was in Uzbekistan. So within a day, like within 3 days, we got me a new visa. We flew to Kazakhstan and we attended this event. And all of the people who were in the organizing committee of that training actually ended up going to the conference, which was really cool, and free registration, of course, because we were students. Yeah, sometimes, you know, a lot of the things I've done have just been random. You never know where opportunity knocks on your door.
And I mean, these pictures. I mean, I could have just. We could have had 1 hour of just me to your Facebook and asking you to explain this photo. That's how amazing they were. But I just picked 4 at random. I mean, that could be even more impressive things if I had put a bit more attention to it. I mean, I did go as much as I can. So yes, so we'll come to the final segment, which is audience questions. Our audience have sent in a few questions, so I am currently going through them. All right, so yes, so a person has asked from here, I think, yeah. So someone's complimenting, saying, yeah, it's quite an incredible journey, and what a day would be if it wasn't for COVID. So this is actually this is the first question I've received.
Oh, okay. So usually, well, when I was in LSHTM, I used to wake up in the morning and get my coffee at Waitrose, which was free, by the way. And I would go to university, spend the whole day at university, come back home, do readings for the next day, kind of figure out dinner because I don't know how to cook, but mostly frozen food. And that was it. But I feel like right now I'm being a little bit more productive during the quarantine. I know it's very counterintuitive, but I made sure that I was kind of busy because I wasted like the first 2-3 months of quarantine. Now I kind of wake up very late. I get my good 8-9 hours of sleep. I kind of realized that I don't function well without sleep. And there have been years that I've been sleeping just for 3 or 4 hours a night. Do not recommend it. Sleep well, then I wake up. I drink a lot of coffee. That is a very integral part of my life, maybe 4 or 5 times a day. And I have my calendar scheduled for meetings or what I need to do. I feel like if I don't kind of write it down somewhere, I don't end up doing anything that day. And I have this terrible attraction to watch Netflix K-dramas, which I have to get over. So I tend to like now schedule everything so that I don't waste time. And then in my free time, I can just do whatever I want.
There are 3 more, but I think these 3 can be combined into one question themselves. So they asked about how to not get sidetracked or manage working in different organizations of a different project at the same time. So basically, how do you keep yourself well organized so that you're able to meet all your goals?
I think that's a very good question because I was dealing with medical school, MSAI, IFMSA, and AMSA as well because I was with them for a while. I feel like sometimes I took on too much, and it's one of my flaws that, I don't know when to say no, and I don't have time. I would just want to do everything. And, I ended up taking on 20 tasks and not being able to do 15. But like 5 happened, but still you kind of disappointed 15 other people. I think that's something that you should try not to do. I've done it before, and I still sometimes end up doing it. But when I am usually managing different events, I kind of prioritize like what is more important to me. So when I was RD, I used to do IFMSA stuff first, and I let my education take a backseat. I remember when I was RD, I was doing internships side by side, and I wasn't able to cope. My co-interns were mad at me, And everybody was just dissatisfied, and I wasn't learning, because even when I was at the hospital, I was thinking about work that I still had pending, or this meeting that I had to do in the middle of the night. So I decided to take time off, and I finished my internship, like I said, 1 year after my class graduated, actually 7 months after my class graduated. But I feel like prioritization is important, and I would say a lot of my friends keep me on track. It's my most of my friends are the people I work with. I haven't had a lot of friends outside the healthcare community, and I think they also kept a lot of things on track. If I miss something, my best friend calls me and tells me, "You've not finished this. Like, when are you going to do this?" And I feel like it's a good way to kind of do what I have to.
Yes, a trusted source of honest and brutal feedback always
Yes.
gets you in line. Yeah, I mean, that's a very fortunate thing to find. So maybe perhaps work at it. The person who asked
Find
the
it
question.
in every cohort. I feel like if you guys kind of even came for this event right now, I'm sure all of you kind of have the same feeling to do things together. So, you might find a new friend here and who will keep you in check. You always, even when you're training, I think, like trying to lose weight, it's good to have a partner. It's good to have a partner even when you're trying to do stuff in your career, because that person will keep you on track, especially when I get sidetracked all the time.
Oh yeah. So I have just two more questions, and
Mhm.
then we're going to wind it up. I mean, the next question is more of an instruction question. I think perhaps if other people do have questions, maybe we'll ask, and then you can type in answers later on, and we can send it to the main group. But this question is: people are asking, they would like to work in UN or in policy-making bodies that are similar to the UN. So how do you begin to approach having a career or even a work like that? So people are asking that, and that's, I think, something the fault of medical education systems that we're not exposed to in India. So
I feel like
advise them.
if you really want to work with these organizations, the first thing you need to kind of target is what area in these organizations. If there is something that you're passionate about, that is what you should pick. The UN is working on multiple things at the same time. Once you get that down, I would suggest start fast. Like, start in your studying years. If you haven't and you've already graduated, then start now. Don't push it off for something in the future. I feel like a lot of things that you learn happen on the way, and once you start working, even if you don't need to necessarily just start off with a job. You can always go in for an internship or something like that, usually unpaid, by the way. But you end up learning a lot and meeting people who are probably going to hire you in the future. One of the biggest things that I found was when I was an intern at WFME, which is just it's related to the WHO, but it's not part of the WHO. And I found my mentor there, and for me, finding him was the biggest achievement of that internship. And I also know that in the future, if I ever need employment, I could go to him. So the idea is not to kind of focus on these organizations. There are many other organizations that are doing crazy amount of work, and a lot of times the WHO or the UN, they kind of outsource their things to other organizations. So even if you end up joining those, it would be like a good starting point to start, and stick to the passion. That is another advice that I was given to me. Don't move around, like how I moved from like exchange. I think it was because I was a student, it was okay. I went from exchanges to medical education, and then I went to human resources for health, and then I came back to medical education. Kind of being focused helps. You can learn that from me. Like, I couldn't get anything done because I was so unfocused. Yeah, that's all I can tell you. I don't have a job with the UN or WHO, so it's difficult for me to give you advice on that. But
But
these
I
are the
think
mistakes I've
you
trying to.
did say a poignant thing, and I wouldn't have answered with this the question. So, but all these organizations give up offers for interns throughout the year. I mean, UN, WHO, does most criteria. I believe that you should not have a relative, a first degree relative in the UN. If you don't have them, you are eligible for an internship. If you do not know which area to focus on, you can just directly go to an internship that
And a
they
lot of
found
these
their website.
organizations actually do not outsource their internships to organizations. So, for example, IFMSA has no connection with the WHO for internships. If you are an IFMSA member, you basically have to go through the same network of WHO internships on their website
Ah,
to get an internship. So
okay.
everybody's at the same level playing field. It's better to kind of just go
Hmm.
directly to the organization you want to work with and apply there.
Yeah.
And don't be discouraged that you don't have a great CV, because sometimes you don't need a great CV. Just a lot of passion is also enough. They want people who are willing to work long hours for them for free. And trust me, it's worth it, because sometimes you end up learning more at the job than you ever learned in medical
Yeah,
school.
I think I mean, 2 points to add to that. One criteria is you should be a student. So if you're an undergrad or even a postgraduate student, as long as you're still studying, you're eligible for an internship. Since you're not graduated yet and delay your graduation, you're still eligible for an internship. And the other point, as you said, is that even you may not have a great CV, but but most people don't know what it means to have a great CV. So even applying and then getting rejected will give you the exact path in which you should take and build your CR to get selected again for the next year. Because you can be a student for a very long time. After UG in India is 5.5 years, goes on to three further years. You could do a master's, it's 2 years. So there's a long period of time available to many people. So as long as they are within the studentship, they should just try. Even if you are rejected, you would know how to develop your CV in order to apply. So yes, I think that's one more question is that yeah. So people have asked about they've asked on the series and the organization. I am surprised that such questions are coming, but yes, they want your take on the interview and they want your take on the organization. I'm not really exactly sure.
Could you say that again? They
They
want my
want
take.
your take on the organization and the organization and the series going on. What do you think its potential is, and what do you think this
Oh, the one that I'm
organization
doing right now?
could be?
Oh,
The interview you're doing right now and the organization that you're part of, and what do
I
you think its
see.
potential? How do you think it's been so far? Yeah.
So I do know that IFPWD was founded by a friend of mine. We worked together in MSAI, and he was always a great worker. By the way, hi. Thank you for asking me to do this. But more importantly, I feel like this series is going to be really fun, especially because I would also get to learn a lot from people who are going to be coming onto this series in the future. I still feel strange that y'all asked me to talk about this, but okay. But I feel like sharing my journey is kind of important in the way, because I was never a very great student or anything, but I ended up doing something that I love and it gives me happiness. And I feel like if that kind of is inspiration to anybody, I would love to say that, give it out in the open. I feel like this is a great idea. I'm looking forward to more of these kind of informal setting interviews. I think a better judgment would be from the people who are viewing, whether they enjoyed it or not,
I'm
and do they want to see
sure.
more.
I'm sure from the amount of questions I've actually received, I can see that they are listening with rapt attention and actually filled with a bit of awe at what you've done. So they have really enjoyed this series. I do believe this is at least the first episode. Hopefully, they'll enjoy the whole series of it. We do have a few more episodes already in the stages of planning, and will be soon out later on as well. So yeah, that's quite wonderful.
The one thing I
So
do
thank you
love
so much
about
for
this organization
okay.
is that it's hitting local, and sometimes, when you're trying to go global, you forget that the actual impact is only when you're working local. And I really appreciate it that Arun and his team, they're really doing a great job and kind of focusing where it matters. I think it's important, and I feel like irrespective of what all of you end up doing, I wish IFPWD the best always. And yeah, I feel like it's a good platform for students to kind of start out and see where they want to go ahead in life, because you need a place to start, and this seems like the best bet right now.
Absolutely, and you're absolutely right in that Arun is our mutual friend. He's been very kind enough to invite me to do this as well and give me a place in the organization. I think he has the right vision of doing it from the grassroots and then building it up, which is something, as you said, when you do get lost in what the policy and the words means, you can't see how it translates locally. So his idea of creating impactful events and having a grassroots level organization that builds up really is something I've really enjoyed myself. So thank you for doing this, and this was really fun conversation more than anything else, and an incredible start to our series as well. So I thank you for honoring me to presence, and thank you for the team behind the event, Purna and Dr. Fahima, for their diligence and inputs in making this a reality. I thank Dr. Ram, our president, for his real persistence and really tireless persistence. The guy literally has a fever and ends up organizing an endearing presence in all the activities that we do. I thank the audience for listening to hello audiences on Facebook as well. I'm sorry I didn't refer to you before. Thank you for listening. I'm overjoyed and encouraged at your participation as well and for the questions. Do stay tuned, lots more planned on this platform. So thank you, and thank you once again, Mokshada. Goodbye.
Everybody, take care and good luck.
Yes. I think this is the right time to end the session. Bye-bye.
Bye.